So welcome back guys to another video, and I thought for this video I would talk about some of my favorite 3D platformers, and what I wanted to stick to is my favorite 90s era 3D platformers because it was such a remarkable time playing those games, and I just wanted to go through some of them that I just really enjoyed. Now, honestly, I cannot talk about 3D platformers, especially early 90s 3D platformers, without mentioning the granddaddy of them all, and that is Mario 64. And man, all I can say is I remember when this game was first being talked about, back when the N64 was called the Ultra 64. I remember playing this at a kiosk in Walmart and being completely blown away because I was a huge Mario fan, still am. And it was groundbreaking. I mean, this was a 3D Mario, something that we had never played before, and it was very different. It still had that Mario charm that all of us love, with challenging platforms and immersive power-ups and just lavish environments, but it added a little special something, you know, from the boss battles with Bowser, you know, the tailspin, to that freaking piano that still gives me jump scares to this day. That thing still scares the shit out of me. This was an excellent game, and you know, I've played Mario 64 on other platforms, you know, from the N64 to the Virtual Console. I even have the Mario 64 that came out for the original DS. But honestly, I can say that despite all the different platforms, it just feels more right on the N64, and that comes from that's a big compliment for me, because I'm not a huge fan of the N64 controller, but for some reason it feels right playing Mario 64. Now, what does the drummer from Police, Stuart Copeland, and Mystical Beast have in common? Well, he helped compose one of my favorite platformers from the PlayStation 1 era, Spyro the Dragon. This was a game that I had played as a demo when I had first bought my PlayStation, and I couldn't stress how much fun I had playing this game. I mean, I had a lot of good demos on that disc. I had like Metal Gear Solid, WWF, Warzone, you know, Ninja, if you guys remember that game, Ninja. But I found myself playing Spyro the Dragon a lot. It was a good lengthy demo, and it just, you know, had that 3D atmosphere that was so new at the time, and it was just so freaking fun. And later on I went to go rent it, and I beat it. That was one of those games that I rented and like beat that weekend. It was such a fun weekend, and I really love Spyro the Dragon. It's kind of unfortunate that, you know, Spyro, he helped launch the Skylanders series, but the series kind of spit him up, and they spit him out, you know, they chewed him up and spit him out, and we haven't seen any more Spyro games, and it's a big shame, because I would love to see Sony, even, you know, Xbox One, Wii U, I would love to see them have like some Spyro games. I mean, it was a great, fantastic series. Now, the next game I wanted to talk about was also on the PlayStation, and oh man, this game was so much fun, and that is Ape Escape. Now, what made Ape Escape so interesting was this was the first game that truly utilized the analog controller. I mean, this was a brand new, updated controller for the PlayStation to kind of compete with the N64 with their analog stick. They had two analog sticks, and it felt more 3D. Because, you know, you had the one stick that you can control the camera with, the other stick to move around. But what made it really interesting with this game was how they used the analog DualShock. I mean, they really used to help catch these monkeys, and like, you know, when you first started levels, it was very simple. You just ran around and you caught a monkey, but then the monkeys would get more smart, they would become more intelligent, and you would have to find different ways, and it was almost kind of like a puzzle game at that point, but it wasn't so puzzling that, you know, it didn't take away from the platform aspect of it. It still felt like a platformer, and I believe they might have came out with another Ape Escape. I know they came out with Ape Escape 2. I'm not certain if they came out with Ape Escape 3. Correct me on that in the comments below. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But I did get Ape Escape on the loose for the PS1, and this is a great port of the very first Ape Escape. It's amazing because, you know, the PSP doesn't have twin dual sticks. It has kind of like a little thumb slider, but they really did a great job utilizing those controls and made it feel very natural, and it looks fantastic on the PSP. And I cannot talk about 3D platformers without mentioning a 64 staple, Banjo Kazooie. Now, I do have to say, when Banjo Kazooie came out, I was kind of falling off the platforming bandwagon, especially with the mascots and stuff. Not that I didn't like it, but I was just feeling like I wanted to move on. I was playing games like Resident Evil and Metal Gear Solid and stuff like that, and I was just like, I don't know if I want to play any more games that have these cutesy characters. And because, I mean, like, when you play Banjo Kazooie and you hear Banjo, he's like, you know, like Goofy, I'm just like, oh, I don't know about this. But when I played it, it had that charm that I love about platformers. It was just so much fun. And now, I did play a lot like Mario 64, but Rare did a great job upping the ante and adding some extra things to it. Mainly the use of Kazooie. You know, you control Banjo, and Kazooie would have different abilities to help you advance in each level. And of course, just like Mario 64, you had to collect things, and that became, you know, so addicting. And what's really interesting is, you know, Banjo Kazooie, they've made more games over the years, but it's kind of fell into the shadows, you know, after Nuts and Bolts. And I know Rare owns the rights to Banjo Kazooie now, and they're talking about maybe bringing it back. But what I'm really excited about is a Kickstarter that just got funded, Yooka-Laylee, which was made by the ex-members of Rare that helped develop Banjo Kazooie. It's got some of the composers that did the original Donkey Kong Country and Banjo Kazooie, and it's nice to see that, you know, here we are in 2015, and some of us just still love to play games that are just plain fun. And the last game I wanted to talk about was actually on the Sega Dreamcast, and that is another 3D game that we had never seen before, and that was Sonic Adventure. Now, I will say, it took me a couple of years to play Sonic Adventure because I didn't have a Dreamcast at the time. I had a GameCube, and that's when I played Sonic Adventure DX, and I went to go play it, and I could understand why it was such a big deal when it came out for the Dreamcast, why it had so much hype to it, because the environment was just so colorful. I think Sonic games were always very, very colorful, but I don't think I'm the first one to say that that first stage at the beach level was just so freaking awesome, and how you had that 3D hub that you can kind of explore and go from level to level. Then, of course, you would have, you know, Sonic, who would run through all the levels. Then you had certain levels with Knuckles where you had to find Chaos Emeralds, and then you had the Tails levels, which were a little bit more of a shooter and more action-based. It was really ahead of its time, just like the Dreamcast. And I remember later on I played Sonic Adventure 2, and that was just as fun. And then they introduced the Chow Garden, little chows. That could be a whole another video within itself, because that was just such a fun mini game. So anyway, guys, that is some of my favorite 3D 90s era platformers. That's such a long title, I know, but I definitely wanted to touch base on this and talk about it, because I haven't talked about a lot of the 3D platformers. I talk a lot about 2D, but not the 3D realm. So, but here's where I want you guys to come in. I want you guys to leave a comment below. Tell me some 3D platformers that you guys really enjoy that I should check out, and who knows, maybe in the future I'll do an XS Gaming Let's Play on it, especially if it's a platformer I haven't played yet. That'd be a lot of fun. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and as always, happy gaming.